Hey guys, it's Emily, and today I'm starting another 7 books in 7 days challenge. So I filmed this video back in June and I really loved filming it, and I think you guys enjoyed it too. So I thought that since I have the time now, it's the holiday season and I have off from work, so I thought what better time to do this challenge again than right now. So I don't know why I'm doing this again, but apparently I like to do this to myself. So this time around we have kind of a theme going on, and that is my most anticipated books of 2020. So this year I didn't really stay up to date as far as new releases went. I did purchase quite a few of them, but for the most part I didn't get to read as many new releases as I hoped I would. There were so many amazing books that came out in 2020 that I just didn't really get around to reading. So I thought that for this challenge we would read some of my most anticipated reads of the year, especially since 2021 is in legit a week. So I thought it would be time for me to catch up on my most anticipated reads of the year. So I have a wide list of options for this. They're all in my TBR nightstand, so let's see what I have here. So the first book that I have on my list is Wild at Heart by K.A. Tucker. This is a sequel to The Simple Wild, and I believe this came out in February or at the beginning of the year. I know it came out this year, I just don't know exactly when. Then I have A Cuban's Girl Guide to Tea and Tomorrow by Laura Taylor Namey, and this book came out in November. I have Rent a Boyfriend by Gloria Chow. This book came out in November as well. Mind the Gap, Dash and Lily by Rachel Cohn and David Levithan. This book also came out in November, and this is the third book in the Dash and Lily trilogy. Felix Ever After by Kason Calendar. I believe this one came out in June, but I might be wrong. You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. This one also came out in June if I remember correctly. Then I have Fence Striking Distance by Sarah Rees Brennan, and this one came out in September. Well Played by John DeLuca. This is a sequel to Well Met, well, a companion novel, and this one came out in September. You Say It First by Katie Cotugno. This one came out I believe in May or June, but one of the two. And finally we have 80 Days to Elsewhere by Casey Dyer, and this one came out in August if I remember correctly. So as you can tell, I have quite the list, which is about to fall apart, but I'm obviously not going to read all of this because I have like 10 books here and the goal is to read 7 books in 7 days. But I just thought that I would have like a wide variety, like a wide list of options, so that I could basically mood read and pick whatever I want. So today is Wednesday and it is December 23rd. So I think now it's time for me to pick my first book, and I think I'm going to go with Mind the Gap, Dash and Lily by Rachel Cohn and David Levithan. As I've said, this is a third book in the Dash and Lily trilogy, and this one takes place in London. So basically we have Dash, who is going to university in London I believe, and he decides that he's not coming home for the holidays, I think because it's too expensive or something like that. So Lily is appalled by this, so she decides to fly to London to be with Dash and spend the holidays together, but things don't go as planned and they start to question their whole relationship. So I'm looking forward to this. I think this is going to be perfect for my first read because it's super short, so it's about 250 pages, a little bit less than that actually. It's a Christmas read, so it's going to be perfect. I want to read my holiday reads before the holidays if possible, and I'm excited to read it. So what better time than to start now? Hello, today is day 2 of the 7 books in 7 days challenge, and I have finished my first book. So yesterday I finished reading Mind the Gap, Dash and Lily by Rachel Cohn and David Levithan, and to be honest, I wasn't the biggest fan. I think I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5 stars. It wasn't a bad book by any mean, but I just didn't love this. I loved the first book in the trilogy and it's probably my favorite. I think it should have remained a standalone, to be honest. Like, I haven't loved the 2 follow-ups that the authors have released. This one was not any different. I thought I would enjoy it more because it was set in London, and I did like the change of scenery, and I love the fact that they included a lot of like London and just like United Kingdom elements, which I thought was really nice. But I was hoping to like it more than I did, and unfortunately that wasn't the case. I think it's a very average book, and it was like a quick and short read. I loved being back with the characters because I do love Dash and Lily, but I feel like there was something missing with this, and the ending felt kind of rushed. I wanted to get more out of it than I actually did. And if you want to read Dash and Lily's book of Dares, I highly recommend that you read the first one, but you don't have to read the follow-ups. Like, honestly, if you don't want to read a trilogy, just read the first book because the other 2 books are not necessarily necessary. So it's time for me to start on my second book. So today is Thursday, today, and it is the 24th of December, so Merry Christmas Eve or Happy Christmas Eve. I never know how to say this. So I think for my next read, I'm going to go with Felix Ever After by Case and Calendar. I saw Chloe from Quartier du Livre read this recently, and she really made me want to pick it up, so I decided that this is going to be my next read. I think I'm also going to listen to the audiobook for this one because she said that it was absolutely amazing, and so since I had some credits on Audible and on Libro FM, I thought I would use them to listen to the audiobook for this one. I don't know too much about the plot of this. I just know that it takes place in New York. It's about a transgender boy named Felix, but that's pretty much the only things that I know of it. I also know that people have been comparing it to Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, mostly because of the bullying / blackmailing aspect of it, and I loved Simon versus, so I'm looking forward to reading this. I've heard nothing but incredible things about this book, so I am so excited to dive into it. I think even though like this is a 350 page book, I think this could be a very quick and easy read. Just like looking at the formatting makes me think that this is going to be something that can like easily be read, and since it's contemporary, I am sure I'm going to fly through it. The audiobook is certainly going to help. So this is going to be our plan for today.
For trans and non-binary youth, you're beautiful. You're important. You're valid. You're perfect. 1. We push open the apartment building's glass door, out into the yellow sunshine that's a little too cheerful and bright. It's hot as hell. The kind of heat that sticks to your skin, your hair, your freaking eyeballs.
Alright, so it's a little bit later. I apologize in advance if you can hear any background noise. I'm filming in this like common room area, and there's the washing machine running. My mom is cooking upstairs. There's like this dehumidifier that's running as well. So apologies if you can hear any like background noise. But now I kind of want to open some Christmas gifts. So there's this tradition in Iceland where they will gift each other books, and they will spend the night of the 24th reading. So let me read you what like Google says about this, because I want to make sure that I include everything. So it says it's a national tradition and it has a name, Jola Boka Flood, which I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, or the Christmas book flood. The culture of giving books as presents is very deeply rooted in how families perceive Christmas as a holiday. Normally we give the presents on the night of the 24th, and people spend the night reading. So since I have received some presents from my friends, I thought I would open them here because I cannot wait any longer. They've been staring at me for at least a week, and I was going to keep them for the 25th, but I kind of want to open them now. So let's do it, okay? Okay, so this one is from Mary, I believe. Is there a note? Here it is. And she got me, oh my gosh, she got me Something Like Love by Christina C. Jones, and I didn't expect this. I was expecting her to send me like a classic or something, because this is typically what she reads. I believe this is a romance novel, which I was not expecting from her at all, and this is something that I got recommended from Mina over at Mina Reads. She recommended Christina C. Jones a lot. She talks about this author a lot on her channel, and she said that this was her favorite, I believe, so I'm looking forward to it. And oh my god, thank you so much, Mary. I was not expecting this at all, and I cannot wait to dive in. Now let's open the second gift. I'm gonna try to find the note before... Oh, there we go. This one is from Megan, whose channel will be linked down below, as well as Mary's, if you guys want to check them out. Oh my god. Oh my god. It's The Girl Who Speaks Bear by Sophie Anderson. Oh my god, thank you so much, Megan. I am so happy. This is on my winter reading list, and I've been wanting to read from this author for a while, and I'm so excited, and oh my god, I'm so happy. Thank you so much for both gifts. Like Mary and Megan, you guys are, well, you girls are amazing, and I have no words. I hope you guys enjoyed your gifts as well, because I did send them something as well. So thank you so much to both Megan and Mary for sending me stuff. Like I've mentioned, the links to their channels will be linked down below, but I'm so happy. I was not expecting either of these, and I am just so happy. Wow. I guess that's it for my little like unboxing. I am so happy. Now I think I'm just going to get some reading done. I have only read like 30 pages of Felix Ever After so far, so I think I'm going to snuggle in maybe here. I think this room would be very like perfect for reading, so maybe I'll like put on an ASMR room or something like that and get some reading done, and hopefully we can fly through Felix Ever After. Merry Christmas! So, hello, today is Christmas Day. It is day 3 of this challenge, so Merry Christmas if you celebrate it. But I thought I would do a little update on Felix Ever After because I ended up finishing it last night, and as it turns out, it is just as incredible as everyone says it is. So big trigger warning for bullying in this book, especially if you're sensitive to like transphobic comments and like very insensitive stuff, because this is very heavy on the bullying. As it turns out, that this book is about Felix, who is a transgender boy, and he goes to this art school, and one day he shows up for class and there's this gallery of pictures of him before his transition, and I think like his dead name is also mentioned within like the gallery, and obviously Felix is very shaken up by it, so he makes it upon himself to figure out who did this to, you know, get his revenge. Pretty much like we're following him along as he's trying to figure out who did this, but also as he's trying to figure out his identity, because it's a big theme throughout the book. Felix is a transgender boy, but he does question who he is. So if you're sensitive at all to bullying in any kind, would not recommend this, but other than that, it is absolutely incredible. So I didn't think that I would be someone who would enjoy this type of book, not because of the themes, but because it is a very character-driven book. I'm someone who loves a good plot-driven story, and so if there's not much going on, like it is a case here, I typically don't have much to grab onto, and I just don't find myself really invested in the story. But in this case, it was so well done, I just could not put it down. Like I read it pretty much in one sitting, and I had such an incredible time reading it. I feel like the discussions that this book goes into is really important. Like I said, there's a whole situation where Felix is basically questioning his own identity. Yes, he has transitioned, but is still wondering if he made the right choice. There's a lot that this book goes into, especially like the trans experience, and I haven't read a lot of books that feature trans main characters, and I really enjoyed the discussions that this book went into. Not only that, but the cast is incredibly diverse. We have pretty much an entirely queer cast, which I thought was so nice and refreshing. I feel like we don't really read about those. I feel like not a lot of YA books feature an entirely queer cast, so I thought it was refreshing to see so many queer characters in one book. I'm not too sure about my rating. The main reason why is that the book goes one way. There's this love triangle basically, and the book makes you think that it's going to go this one way, but then the ending is completely different. Like it flips your expectations, and I was not like expecting it to go there. So I don't really know how I feel. I felt a little bit betrayed by the author because I was so sure of the ending, but I really liked the ending still. So I don't really know how to feel about this. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads because I feel like it's such an important book, but as far as like my enjoyment of it, I don't know if it's more like a 4.5. It was really, really good. Highly recommend it. And like the identity of the bully really took me by surprise. So that was good. I thought it was this one person throughout the entire story. And then when we figured out that it wasn't them, and I was like, really? Are you sure? So yeah, I really loved it. The audiobook is really good. I would really recommend it if you're looking to experience the story. The audiobook narrator is really good. The only thing is that I feel like he read text messages in a weird way. It was very like robotic. It kind of felt like I am talking like this, and it really like disrupted the whole experience for me. Every time there was a text message or like a DM or something involved, I was just like, wait, what? But other than that, highly recommend. Like I said, 5 out of 5 stars, but it might be more like a 4.5 simply because I don't know how I feel about like the last 150 pages, but it was really good. It should be like a mandatory read for young adults. It reads like a little bit of an older YA. Like the main character is 17, but there's like underage drinking, they smoke weed and stuff like that. So if that's something that you don't necessarily want to read, maybe like dive into this with caution. I wouldn't recommend this to like younger teens, but like for young adults, this is so good. Would highly recommend. Amazing. This book kind of made me not renew my faith in YA because I've always loved YA contemporaries, but I haven't read a YA contemporary in like months. I think the last time I read one might have been like in July, like this summer. So I haven't read like a YA contemporary in ages, and like this book has made me want to read more. Like it kind of like has renewed my love for YA contemporaries. So this is why my next read is going to be You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. So this book follows our main character Liz, who has her eyes on a big school. I don't really know what the name of the school is, but she wants to go to a specific college that is outside of her Indiana hometown. But the thing is, Liz could not afford like the tuition or anything like that, so she asks for financial aid, and her financial aid request gets denied. So Liz is kind of crushed because obviously her dreams are compromised. So she remembers that the prom queen and the prom king of her school get a scholarship. So she decides that she will be applying or like I guess, running to become prom queen at her school. But the thing is, Liz is very like awkward, not very popular or anything like that, so it wouldn't be something that she would typically do, but she really wants that scholarship, so she puts herself into this, I don't know, I guess competition. I don't really know how to call it, but I'm very excited because apparently this is a sapphic romance, and I don't know, I just am looking forward to it. I love this cover. It's also Reese's book club YA pick. I think this was the first YA pick that they did, like what initiated the whole YA book club thing, so I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, I cannot wait to start reading it. Let's get into our book. Alright, so it's about 1 p.m. and I am currently on page 96 of You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. So far I'm really enjoying it. It's a super quick read. It's so fun and fast, and I'm having a great time so far. This book really reads as if it's meant for a younger audience though. Like while Felix Ever After was meant for an older audience, this one really reads younger. Like I'd say if you're 13 and up, you could totally read this. So it's been a fun experience. It really like reminds me why I love YA, honestly. So far it's quite like cliche and everything, but it's a lot of fun and I'm enjoying it a lot. I cannot wait to see where it goes. But now I think I'm going to take a mini break from reading, and I think we're going to be starting the Dash and Lily adaptation on Netflix. I've been wanting to watch this show for the longest time. Ever since it came out, I've been wanting to watch it, and I kept like trying to like find a time to watch it, and I never really did. So we're gonna do it today. I wanted to do it before Christmas, but what better way to celebrate Christmas than by watching Dash and Lily, which is one of my favorite YA Christmassy reads. So we're gonna watch at least one episode of that just to take a mini break from reading, and then I'll probably get back into my book because we need to read a little bit more before it's dinner so that, you know, we can stay on track with our challenge.
Imagine this. You're in your favorite bookstore, scanning the shelf where your favorite books reside, and there, nestled between the familiar spines, sits a red notebook.
Hello, so today is day 4 of this challenge, and I can't believe that we're already halfway through. Oh my god, godsend, thank you. Anyway, so today is Saturday, and yesterday I had such a nice like Christmas moment with my family. Basically we had dinner, and after that we opened our presents, and I was so spoiled this year. But I did finish 2 things yesterday. The first one being the Dash and Lily Netflix adaptation, and oh my god, it was so cute. I pretty much like watched it in one go. I basically did this thing where I would like read one part of my book, and then I would watch 1 or 2 episodes, and I alternated like that so that I would still get some reading done while also watching the show, which was absolutely amazing. It made me like, it put me in the Christmas mood, which wasn't really the case till then, to be honest. Like this year is so different with like COVID, obviously, but also like the weather hasn't really been on our side. We typically get snow on Christmas. Like we didn't have any yesterday. It did snow last night though, and like right now there is snow on the ground, but we didn't have any snow yesterday. It actually rained, so it was like kind of a sad day because of that, because we typically, I don't know, we have snow and everything, and I'm just much more in the Christmas spirit typically than I was this year. So for some reason I just wasn't really in the mood for it. But when I watched Dash and Lily, it just puts me in such a Christmassy mood. Like I was in the Christmas spirit, basically. I was feeling the Christmas cheer and everything. And since it's taking place in New York, it reminded me of when I went to New York last year for Christmas time, and it was amazing. I just really enjoyed it, would highly recommend it. And it's kind of similar to the book. I feel like it's kind of like a good adaptation, but they did make some changes because obviously like it's a series, they cannot add everything, but I feel like they did a pretty good job at adapting the book and turning it into a series. So they did pretty well in my opinion. And I also finished my book. So I finished You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson, and it was such an amazing book. I think I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I had a great time reading it. It was so much fun. It's a super quick read as well. It's pretty much your typical YA contemporary, but I liked how it was like sapphic. Obviously, like we had like queer characters. It talked about being black in the small town in, I believe it was Indiana. Yeah, exactly. I really enjoyed this. I think it was super cute, super fun, but I do feel like some of the side characters could have been more fleshed out, which is why I'm giving it a 4.5 instead of a 5 out of 5 stars. I just feel like some of the side characters, especially her friends, like Liz's friends, just weren't necessarily very well developed in my opinion, and they could have used a little bit more descriptions. Even the love interest, I feel like should have been more developed. We never really got to know her, and I wished she had been more fleshed out basically. But overall, really great read, would highly recommend. It really would be an amazing read for younger teens specifically. If you're looking for like a prom story, this one is super cute, super fun. So now that means that we have to get started with our next read, which I think is going to be Fence Striking Distance by Sarah Rees Brennan. I actually started reading it a little bit this morning. I've only read 8 pages so far. I love the Friends graphic novels, so I'm really looking forward to this. To be honest, I started reading it and I'm only 8 pages in so far. I'm not loving it. I feel like the writing is pretty much like, I don't know, it feels very, not cliche, but basic. I feel like the characters are very different too. I'm not feeling it so far, but I'm only like 8 pages in. So I'm going to give this a fair shot before I decide if I'm going to DNF it or not. But so far, not loving it, but we'll see, I guess. I'm terrible. So, hey guys, today is the next day. So it is day 5 of this challenge. It is the 27th of December. And yesterday, I didn't read. So I read maybe 30, I think it was actually 34 pages of Fence Striking Distance yesterday in total. And I know what you're asking yourself, like, how did this happen? It's supposed to be a 7 books in 7 days challenge. Well, I think obviously we can say that I'm officially behind on the schedule if I want to be able to complete 7 books in 7 days. Yesterday just was not a day for reading, and it was nice to take a break from this, to be honest, but I need to get back on track. So I didn't really read this yesterday, but I was like, this morning this is going to happen, and it actually did. So I'm currently on page 257. So I've spent my entire morning more or less reading this, and I'll be honest, this book is bad. Like, it is not well written. The characters are pretty flat and caricatural, but I am enjoying this oddly because it's so bad that it's kind of entertaining. So I'm having a good time more or less because it's so funny. It's like so ridiculous that it's funny. So you know how when you're watching a bad movie, sometimes it can be like a good bad because like it's so bad that it's entertaining to watch. Well, it's the same thing with this book. So I'm going to finish it because I have about 100 pages to read before I'm done with it. Right now I'm going to focus on finishing this. Then I might go do a little bit of the puzzle to take a mini break from reading. And then ideally I would like to read at least 100 pages of my next book. I'll update you guys once I've decided which one that's going to be. But now let's finish this because it's about dang time. So it is now 6 p.m. I apologize if you can hear a background noise. I just put on my electrical like fireplace because my room was so cold, and I thought I would like start it so that I would feel a little bit more warm and toasty. But I did finish reading Fence Striking Distance by Sarah Rees Brennan. I ended up giving this a 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. It is probably more like a 2-star book. Like I said, it's pretty terrible all around. I feel like the characters are very caricatural. I don't know how to explain this. When I dove into this, when I picked this up, I thought that since we have a long form version of the graphic novels, basically this is a good opportunity for the author to dive deeper into the characters and add some depth to them and even go further in terms of plot. But I feel like this could have been easily a graphic novel. I don't know, I think the author just took the easy way out instead of really adding depth. Like, there was nothing new to this book. Like, yes, in terms of plot we got different things obviously, because otherwise this would have been utterly boring, but in terms of the characters, nothing new was brought to the table. It just disappointed me in a lot of aspects, but I did find it very entertaining. As I was saying, it's kind of ridiculous, but it's ridiculous to the point where I had fun reading it. The plot is nonsensical, but it is fun to read. So I did enjoy this. This is why I'm giving it a 3 stars, but I would not recommend it unless you're like hardcore fans, graphic novel fans. You don't have to read it. Like, honestly, it's not like mandatory if you're into the Fans series but don't want to read a full like length novel. Don't bother, honestly. I think fans will be maybe satisfied by this because it is fun, and it is a character that you're used to, and I guess there are some relationship developments that happen that fans will be very happy about. But other than that, it's like, would I recommend it? No. But it was a fun ride. So now it is about 6 p.m. and I wanted to like start my next book before my video calls. So I have a little bit of time left before the first video call that I have to do tonight. I have two, so we'll see how that goes. But I wanted to let you guys know that I've picked my next read, and that's going to be A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow by Laura Taylor Namey. I picked this simply because this is the shortest book on my TBR. I don't know if you can really tell, but it's quite short. It's about 300 pages, so I think I could finish this really quickly. I'm also really into the idea of this. The main character travels to England, and I really wish that I could have included this in the England episode that I did for Books Around the World, but oh well, I'm excited. I think the main character goes to England to visit her grandmother or something like that, and I'm guessing she'll meet a boy, and I just love this cover. I mean, look at how gorgeous it is. I'm in love. Good morning. It's day 6 of the challenge, and yesterday I read about 25 pages of A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow. So this morning we're going to be dedicating ourselves to reading as much of the book as possible. I'm going to try to finish this before lunch, as it is only 300 pages. I think I could maybe make that happen, and then in the afternoon I could start something new. So we'll see. I do have a lot of catching up to do in order to read 7 books in 7 days, because this is my 5th book. So it's 10:30 p.m. and I just finished reading A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow by Laura Taylor Namey. So you might be asking yourself, weren't you supposed to finish this super early, as this is a super short book? And the answer to that is yes, but this book dragged. I found it hard to pick it up. I just was not motivated to read it. I don't know if it's because I'm hitting reader fatigue or if it just wasn't for me, but this book just was not what I was expecting. I love YA travel novels, and so when I read the synopsis of this, I thought I was going to love this. So basically we have our main character who goes off to England. What I didn't know is that she is being sent there by her family because she had a lot of traumatic events happen in the beginning of the book, like before the story even begins. There's like a bunch of traumatic events that happen like back to back, and that kind of sent our main character into like a frenzy of sorts, and her family sends her to England in order to heal. So she'll be living with her aunt in England so that she can heal and get better. But the main character is really against this idea. She just wants to go back home. She doesn't want to be in England. She thinks that she can recuperate at home and she doesn't have to be sent to another country in order to do that. So I was really intrigued by this premise. I thought I would enjoy this because it's set in England. I mean, you have my heart there. But unfortunately I didn't like this. I am going to give it a 2.5 out of 5 stars, I believe, because I didn't hate this either. I just think it wasn't for me. I really struggled with the main character. At first she was acting very stubborn and very, how do I say this? She was very irritating as a character because she obviously didn't want to be there, and I understood her ways at first. I can understand, like, if you're being sent to an entirely new country without your consent, I could understand why you would act in such a way. But the more the book went on, the more I got irritated with the main character because she just didn't even try to experiment with, like, experience British culture. I don't know. I just feel like she didn't really try, and she just kept making things about her. I don't really know how to explain it. Instead of like trying out different things, she would just like think that she's better than everyone, especially in terms of like cooking and baking, which I understand that it was her forte and this is like her strength and her skills. But at the same time, she acted so like know-it-all about it that I kind of hated her at some point. I was like, okay, you gotta stop this because I'm honestly not enjoying this. The descriptions of food were absolutely incredible. It made me hungry on several occasions, but I just didn't like the way the main character acted, so I really struggled with her. And since the story is told from her perspective, I had a hard time reading this. I did like the side characters, especially the love interest, but I do feel like some of the side characters were a little bit flat and unidimensional, especially the family. I mean, Leela goes to live with her aunt and uncle, and we barely see them at all. Like, some of them get mentioned, but for the most part, we don't really see them. We only know their names, but we don't really know like anything about them, and there's almost no interactions with the family, which I thought was a little bit odd. But her friends were really great, and I did enjoy seeing all of the character growth throughout the book. But for the most part, I just felt like nothing really happens in this book. It's about Leela and mostly her trying to heal, like I mentioned, but I feel like we went in the past a lot and didn't really spend a lot of time in the present, and when we did, not much really happened. It's mostly like the day-to-day stuff, and it's mostly about the food that Leela bakes, to be honest. Like there's not really much going on in terms of plot, and I'm someone who likes her YA travel novels to have some kind of plot. I like when my characters explore and travel, and I don't know, I just didn't really feel this with this one. Like there's a little bit of traveling to London because she goes to Winchester, and so that's about an hour away from London, so she goes there like once or twice, but that's pretty much it. And even then, like the traveling aspect is what I was most interested in, and the author really glosses over that to focus on Leela and her growth as a character, which I did understand, but this is not what I wanted out of this. Overall, I'm sad because I really wanted to love this, and I want to say I'm really glad for the representation. This is one thing that I am really like a big advocate for. I am really glad that we have a YA contemporary with a Cuban main character. I feel like we don't have a lot of that. I think the only other one that I can think of is Don't They Rosa Santos by Nina Moreno, which I did really like, and so I'm really glad that we have another one, and I'm sure there are more. I'm not necessarily familiar or aware of them, but I'm really glad that this book exists. Other than that, it didn't have a lot going on for me, and so I didn't really like it as much as I wanted to, which is unfortunate. So this is why I'm giving it a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Alright, so now that's our 5th book that is done, but we only have one more day of this challenge. So I would have to read 2 books tomorrow in order, or even like maybe tonight and stay up all night or whatever to complete the challenge. I don't really feel like doing that, to be honest, and I also don't want to give up altogether because I'm so close. I just feel like I need to do something to make up for it. So I kind of found a way, I think, to make this happen and still read 7 books in 7 days. I found this super short book that came out in 2020 that I was actually really excited for. So we have Memento by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, which is kind of a prequel to Illuminae, I believe. I'm not too sure. I know it's like a novella in the series. I just don't exactly know where it stands. I don't know if it takes place like before, after, not too sure. But I know it was like a bonus, like a pre-order thing, I believe, and for a while it was not available for purchase, but this year in 2020 it came out and became available to the wide public. So I downloaded the audiobook, and it's super short. Like we're talking about an hour of reading. I think the audiobook is an hour and a half long, so if I listen to the audiobook on like 1.7 speed, which is like my usual rhythm, I guess, I don't like speed, yeah, speed, I think I could finish this like really quickly, and so that would mean that we would have read 6 books, and then I would only have to read another book tomorrow. So I think that's what we're gonna do. Hey guys, so it's been a couple of days since I've last updated you. Today is the 2nd of January, so Happy New Year. I hope 2021 will be kinder to you than 2020 was, and I wish you all an amazing year in 2021. So the reason why I didn't really update you on the last day, even though I did read, is that I was not really feeling up for it. I wanted to dedicate most of my time to reading, and this is what I did. So I just was not necessarily in the mood to film, so I was like, oh, I'll film the next day and I'll just like wrap up the vlog and tell you guys that I didn't film on day 7. But I ended up being kind of sick the last couple of days of 2020, which I guess I had to end 2020 on a bad note, right? Because this year was already kind of crap, so of course it had to be even worse. I was not feeling great. I got like a headache, I was feeling nauseous, and so I didn't film anything, and now here we are. So on day 7, I read Rent a Boyfriend by Gloria Chow. So I wanted to read this before the holidays were over because this is kind of a holiday themed book. Most of the action takes place during the holiday season, so I wanted to make sure that I read this before the end of the year because I knew that if I didn't read it this year, I would have to push it back to 2021 since it's kind of a holiday book. So as the title may suggest, we have our main character Chloe, who rents a boyfriend for the holiday season. I found out that this is kind of a common practice in Asia for like women to rent boyfriends to present to their families. So I thought this was super interesting as a concept, and I loved the idea behind it, and I ended up loving this book so much. I'm giving it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was amazing. It's probably one of my favorite books that I've read in 2020. I just loved it so much. It was a perfect way to end 2020, to be honest. Like, it was so amazing. I loved the characters. I loved the representation because our main character Chloe is Chinese, and so since most of the action takes place at our house during the holidays, we got to experience Christmas, I guess, or the holiday season from a Chinese perspective, which I thought was refreshing. And I also really just enjoyed the book as a whole. Super fast, super fun, and I just had a great time. Like, I read it super quickly and I laughed out loud. Such an amazing book, probably one of my favorite reads of the year, and I could not recommend it enough. And And then, since this was my 6th book of this challenge and I had one more book to read in order to complete the challenge, I read Memento by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman, as I think I discussed in day 6. So as it turns out, this is a prequel to the Illuminae File series, which I did really love. It is one of my favorite sci-fi series, and so I was really looking forward to it. This was okay. Like, I'm giving it a 4 out of 5 stars because, as usual, the format is amazing. I loved the audiobook. I also was reading the ebook, and I would not necessarily recommend it. I feel like it was hard for me to read. It would be good like in a physical format, but the ebook itself, like the way it was formatted, just was not working for me. But I really loved the audiobook. Even though this was like really great, it didn't really bring anything new to the table. So that means that with Memento, we finished the 7 books in 7 days challenge on time. Let's recap everything that I've read super quickly because I feel like I had a good reading week. It was a great way for me to end the year, to be honest, because I did discover new favorites, but it also made me read stuff that I had on my radar for a while. So the first book that I completed was Mind the Gap Dashing Lily by Rachel Cohn and David Levithan. I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. Was not necessarily my favorite in the series, and I would not necessarily recommend it, but it was a fun read. So then I read Felix Ever After by Kaysen Callender. This one I gave a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was one of my favorite books that I've read during this challenge and also one of my favorites of the year. I would really recommend it if you guys are looking for a new YA contemporary to try. Next, I read You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. I also gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was such a cute and fun story, and if you guys are looking for a prom book, really love this one, so highly recommend. Then I read Fence Striking Distance by Sarah Rees Brennan. This was one of those books that were just not good, but was quite entertaining. So I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, but it is a generous 3 out of 5 stars. Probably would be more of a 2, but for the enjoyment factor alone, I gave it a 3. Then I read A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow by Laura Taylor Namey. This one was kind of a disappointment. I just struggled so much with the main character, even though I like the setting and I did like the mentions of food and the culture and the representation, but unfortunately this was kind of a struggle for me, so I gave it a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Rent a Boyfriend by Gloria Chow. As I was saying earlier, this is a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed it, would highly recommend, and it's one of my favorite books that I read this year. And we finished this challenge by reading Memento by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. This was okay, I guess. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars because the audiobook is really amazing and it did remind me why I love this series so much. So I guess that's it for this video. I know this was super long, so if you are still here, comment a book stack emoji in the comments down below. I really appreciate it, and thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to give this a big thumbs up. That really helps out my channel. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already, and I guess that's it, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!